Hi guys, can you hear me now? I'm so sorry, I just waffled on for so long and did not see those comments. Oh, how awkward. Yeah, super sorry. I have two screens and not enough technology to figure this out, so let's just try my phone and we'll see if it works. Can someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now? Bloody computers, hey. Hello. All right, so I'm just going to get cracking onto this because I feel quite bad that you couldn't hear me. How awkward. I'm just going to start again. So, yeah, so you can look back on this and know what the heck I was saying. So, alrighty. Okay. So, just going to start again. Again, if you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, that would be ace. Alrighty, so going to get cracking on what I was talking about. I'm so sorry that you couldn't hear me before. So basically, we're just going to do a little bit of a Q&A. I often get questions or get asked things by people when I meet them, and they ask me questions about what I do and why I do it. So I thought I'll just pop some questions and answers in here for you guys, and yeah, just have a little listen, and it might help you to chat with people or consider things about massage that you didn't know already. So often I get asked, when I tell people that I massage horses for a living, they say, oh, why do you do that? Like, why would a horse need a massage? So I think that's, or, do horses like massages? Do they benefit from massages? Sometimes you might get people say, oh, there's, yeah, how do you massage? It's a creature that's so big and that sort of thing. So I guess the important thing to know with massage for the horse is that it's very similar to us, how it benefits the horse. They're athletes like we are, but if anything, they're more athletic. They need to be able to move well to survive. So that's really important. And that's probably a key thing to understanding with horses and why they benefit from massage so much. And I see that benefit a lot is because their ability to move well and freely is so important to their sense of well-being and their happiness. So anything you can do to help your horse move better will make it feel better. Okay, so similar to us, the massage can help relieve muscle tension, increases the range of motion, so increases the joint range of motion, and it improves the extension and protraction of the muscles. So they've done studies to actually prove how it does benefit the ability for the horse to actually move its limbs as well as possible through relaxing the muscles. So that's just a little bit of research for you as to what improvement has been shown. In terms of how it could benefit your horse or horses generally, is it improves their performance. So that might then improve their ability to compete or just do their job, whether that's being ridden or just being a happy horse in the field. They can just start to improve in that way. It increases how flexible and pliable their muscles are. It which can be through the direct manipulation of the muscle. So when I'm massaging, I may be like, say, performing effleurage or kneading on a particular muscle, like a superficial muscle. And so I could be directly stimulating the muscle, or I could be indirectly stimulating the muscle, as in I'm performing a relaxation on a muscle from the outside that then improves the whole body of the muscle, and improves the way of going to relax the muscles further, and the horse can actually start to relax and improve their own posture and well-being through relaxation. One thing that I see often in horses is that massage helps to improve their emotions. So a horse is similar to us. They can get a bit cranky when their muscles hurt, when they feel a bit grouchy, they feel a bit out of their body, and then that can help to massage helps to improve their proprioception and their happy hormones like it does for us. And so then the horse can start to feel a little bit better, a bit happier, let go of that stress. They get stressed like we do. They can get stressed from things like riding, training, traveling, all sorts of things. Trauma, accidents can really stress your horse out. So getting a massage just like us helps to improve relaxation, and then can improve things like sleep and stuff like that too. So some really cool things that massage can do. It improves the blood flow and the circulation. So you'll often visually see that after I massage the horse, the coat's improved. You can see the hairs start to stick up. The horse is really, the blood is just, it's like a literal rush of blood to the muscles, and that is really cool to see. The shine starts to come out. You might see the dapples come up, and that then can carry on and keep nourishing those muscles and blood vessels through the massage. The actual process has really helped to improve the coat condition and the skin health. So it improves lymphatic drainage, so that's really important. Horses drain lymph through movement, but obviously if they're not moving correctly, or if they're laid up for whatever reason, then their lymph isn't moving properly, and that it really is important for overall health and mobility, but also things like their immune function needs to be, you need a good lymphatic drainage for your toxins to be removed in your body. And so that can really be helped by massage, because it helps to manually stimulate that lymphatic drainage if there's any issues with movement. But then too, by releasing tension and allowing better movement, then the lymph can start to flow better. Similar to us, so our horse can have post-exercise pain, like lactic acid buildup, and if they're not moving correctly, they can also have that muscle pain for a prolonged period. So the massage really helps to remove that lactic acid buildup. Yeah, so a really cool thing. And often I encourage people, when they are one of my clients, I'll often show them how to do effleurage, because it's a relatively safe way to rub your horse down after work, and studies have proven that improves the muscle health and recovery. And it also does really wonders for your horse in terms of the bond between you and the horse, and that happy feeling after them being ridden. So then they get a nice bonding session with you after you're ridden them, and they can also they feel better after they've been ridden, and yeah, it has lots of benefits in that way for them. Another good thing about doing a manual rub down of your horse is that you can then feel if there's anything a bit different. So if there's any heat or swelling or any extra cold areas, that can help you to identify problems earlier before they become a bigger problem, and work on those or investigate those. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. So when you massage as well, in blocking, removing any blockages, it helps the muscles to get more oxygen and nutrients. So that's really important for the muscle health and recovery, and building stronger muscles as well by having the proper nutrients going to those muscles. Massage is really cool for improving the posture of the horse. And again, this is a very visual thing that you see, usually straight away after a massage, is a horse that once couldn't stand still can then stand square. And we always want our horses to be standing square most of the time, because that means that everything is working as it should. And a horse that's constantly shuffling its weight or can't get comfortable is usually a horse that's in pain. So once they can start to stand square and solid on all four legs, you know that you're on the right track with the massage. So yeah, So you can see the benefits to the horse are so similar to us. They have a few extra benefits, and the horse, I guess, is really inherent to its well-being to move correctly, and inherent to its feeling of safety and ability to survive and live a long life, is the ability to move correctly and as pain-free as possible. So that's why your massage is really important, no matter what the age or the career of the horse, to keep it ticking along and moving as freely as possible, because their confidence definitely is very much affected by how well they can move. And I've seen that a lot in horses that have developed self-esteem issues or that sort of thing. They often really improve from getting that blood flowing and getting back in touch with their body and feeling good in themselves again. It's really important for the horse. So yeah, lots of reasons the horse likes a massage. Beyond just the muscles, really the well-being and the psychology of the horse is really improved by that a bit of tactile treatment. So yeah, definitely think of that if you think of, oh, I might, give it a go, doing some effleurage on my horse, or book a massage therapist in to have a really good look and a proper treatment of the horse too, because the benefits are actually pretty cool and can be long lasting as well. So think of that. Okay, so the next thing that I get asked, or that people identify often, is that the pole of their horse is sore. So the pole being the muscles behind the ear, behind the ears of the horse. And people often recognise this, say, when they go to put the bridle on or the halter and the horse chucks its head in the air, or, tries to avoid them, or the horse feels stiff in the neck when they're riding. That's quite common, that people identify that the horse might have issues in its pole. I know when I actually assess the horse and massage the horse, the pole you can physically feel when it's tight, and people often can identify that themselves. And even too, the coat colour and condition might be much worse behind the ears than it is on the rest of the horse's neck, and so that can be a dead giveaway that there's tension there. So that's something that people often identify, and they go, oh yeah, my horse is tight in the pole, or my horse seems sore behind the ears, it's avoiding getting bridled. What's that about? How do you fix it? So that's another thing that I get asked a lot, and then I treat as well when I'm massaging. So the pole muscles of the horse, so they're the muscles behind the ears. It's a few muscles there that work together to raise and lower the horse's head and neck, and to move the horse's head and neck left to right. So yeah, it's important to know what those muscles do and how they work, so that you can start to realize, wait, maybe why is it hurting, or how do I tell when it's hurting? So the pole muscles, they attach to the base of the skull and also 3 vertebrae of the neck. So thinking of it that way, they're pretty important in holding a pretty heavy head at the end of the neck, and also in terms of how you use your reins on the lever that is those joints. You can see how it could become tight in that area. So often people identify, like I said, when their horse is sensitive to touch behind the ears, or they avoid being touched behind the ears. They might avoid being touched just in the neck generally, especially at the base of the neck. So in terms of more severe cases, a horse that is tight in the pole won't really feel comfortable in going forward or taking contact. They might start to refuse to jump. They might feel like they can't come up behind, so use their hind legs properly. They might feel heavier on one rein than the other, or unable to flex on one rein to the other. They might feel unable to flex at the top of their neck, so just the simplest side-to-side motion might be quite difficult for them, and they might avoid that a lot. So in terms of my work, when I see it, it's very common, and I think that's something to highlight, is that pole tension is a common side effect for the ridden horse. So it's yeah, it's something that I've seen a lot of riding horses, especially in their first massage treatment when they haven't had that area released recently. They can have been holding that tension for some time. It's important to remember with a horse who's tight in the pole, and what I see a lot of is that it could be a horse that's had a pullback. They've pulled back on a halter when they've been tied. They've had a floating accident. And that's often how people first know when it's happened, is they know that, yeah, the horse pulled back and that's why it's sore. But even to remembering that if the horse hasn't had that muscle released properly, then it could be holding onto that tension for some time until it is released. So it may not even be something that you consciously know that they've done to their neck. And yeah, and it just pops up and then you have to deal with it. So So in terms of what can cause it, so like I said, pullback's really common. It can also be a sign of dental problems. So if your horse hasn't had its teeth done recently, it can be an issue with their teeth that causes the pain in the neck because of the attachment to the skull. And then it can be, you know, that the jaw actually is painful from the pain in the neck. It can also be that stress. So similar to us, a horse with pain in the neck can be holding stress and tension like we would. So that can be another good reason to get a body worker out to have a look in case it's stress related. So it can be that their bridle, their bit, or their bridle or their saddle doesn't fit properly, because when a horse is sore in the pole, it can be that they're actually sore all throughout the neck or in their back. So a horse that's holding itself in a bad posture often will raise its head higher than it needs to try and compensate and carry weight or balance an unbalanced weight, and so therefore they then become painful in the neck because they feel that they can't hold that rider properly. So yeah, unfortunately that can be a thing. If the rider is unbalanced in how they sit on the horse, but also how they use the reins, so if they use one rein more heavily than the other, that can cause pole issues. And similarly too, if the horse is ridden in like a side rein or something like that, more so one side than the other, or so a lot of circles or more circles one side than the other, can cause pole problems because they become tighter one side than the other. Again, if you use other gadgets like tie downs and things, the same sort of thing. You're putting a lot of pressure through a very small amount of muscles to get that artificial sort of way of going, and yeah, that can cause a lot of issues down the track with your horse in terms of pole tightness if those sort of tools aren't being used appropriately. So another thing can be your lower neck problems and tightness. So your horse is in the vertebrae that's lower down the neck. When that is tight, then that can cause issues in the pole, and I see that quite a bit as well. So often you'll find that in releasing the lower part of the neck, you actually then benefit the upper part of the neck too. So that's cool to know. So in terms of what you can do, so other than obviously if you book a qualified massage therapist or a qualified chiropractor or a vet chiropractor out to have a look at what's going on in your horse's pole, some things that you can do yourself. So you could apply some light massage to the area, knowing that horses can have negative association with the pole being touched if they've been handled roughly or if they're in quite a bit of pain. It'd be advisable to be quite gentle when you're dealing with the pole muscles, and don't expect dramatic results straight away. You might need to just gently massage the area and do that, several days in a row. Just be patient and kind and listen to your horse, and the lightest pressure it will accept and then relax into, and you'll find that it will hopefully start to release a bit from that, and I guess and ceasing those issues that are causing the pole to be tight in the first place. So if your horse has an issue with pulling back, then maybe the pull training to do with tying up would be a benefit. If your horse is maybe not happy with its bit, hasn't had its teeth done, sort of look at those problems first and foremost. But yeah, apply some gentle massage techniques to the area. If I come across a horse that's really, really reactive in the pole, so you might have horses that are so reactive that you can't even do much in terms of quick movement. So you might even just have to literally just hold a hand hovering or just over the area until the horse can accept it and relax. Horses can become that defensive. So in terms of programs to follow, if you just look up how to do effleurage, that can help. But I also often say to people with a horse that's got real issues in the pole, if you look up a program like the Masterton method, because often that involves not even touching the horse, it can be almost like an energy work sort of thing, and horses that are that sensitive in the pole can feel safer to let go when they feel a bit more in control of that area. So yeah, it's a real neural pathway for the horse, and so they can become quite cagey about being touched or manipulated in that area. So yeah, just some things to think about. Give it a go, just gently massaging the area yourself. Don't go too hard too quick, and maybe give it a go a few days until you start to see that relax a little bit. You can do the same with the lower part of the neck. Massage that gently and see that start to let go. Something that feels quite tight and tense will eventually start to feel loose, and you'll start to see the hair and the skin soften, and it'll be less of that rough sort of look that you get when the pole is tight. And and if you're really not confident in touching the horse in the area, like I said, that I've found a lot of people have been able to apply the Masterton method, which you can find on YouTube, or send me a message if you don't know how to get to it. A lot of people I know who have been not as confident to touch the horse in that area have found the Masterton method has helped them a lot. So yeah, good tips there. Okay, so I might talk a little bit now, moving on to bits. I'm going to talk a little bit now about bits for dressage. So I've been doing the bit fitting with the Bit Bank for some time now, and I just want to share with you what my top bits are for dressage that I'm finding really help a lot of horses. They're sort of my star additions to my bit kit that I'm finding are really cool. So we're going to start with the one that I tend to start with on my bit fittings, being that it is one of the most ergonomic and kindest, gentlest options that you can have in terms of bitting for your horse. And I tend to start with this for the horse because often we try to start the gentlest option and then go up from there. Some horses may still not like this bit out of personal preference, but it tends to be a fair winner for a lot of horses. And I ride in it myself, so I'll just get that one out for you. So, sorry, it's still attached to the bridle. So this one is the turtle top. So you can just see that there. So the turtle top is a New Shul is the brand for this bit, and basically how it works is that it doesn't have any nutcracker action on the horse. It actually has no capability of compressing down on the tongue or the jaw of the horse, the bars of the horse. And so a lot of horses who have a soft mouth really enjoy being ridden in this bit. If they have a soft mouth already and they're well educated, then this is a really good option for those horses. I found for my own horse, all of a sudden she could be more consistent in her paces because she could confidently take the bit and not worry about it squishing her jaw and tongue. So in terms of horses that are sensitive in the jaw and the tongue, this has been a real winner for me, and I've noticed a lot of schooled and seasoned horses really benefit from this because it builds their confidence and it allows them the comfortable ability to just get on with their job without worrying about being jabbed in the mouth every now and then. You can see that it's got quite ergonomic over the lower jaw. So, and I find that a lot of the New Shul branded bits have this sort of moulding to them that horses really appreciate over the jaw. It's not too sharp. I ride it in the D-ring because, again, D-ring, like a fixed cheek, helps to steady the hands, but also if you wanted to use this for faster work. So if I want to jump in this or do cattle work, I've got more side to side on the face action than I would otherwise. But you can get it in egg butt, loose ring, yeah, lots of options for that. So that's my sort of gold standard, literally, in terms of bitting. And I've actually been finding a lot lately that horses who were maybe bitted in another option, as they've become more confident and their training's improved, they then have been able to graduate to the turtle top. So yeah, so just because your horse was fitted or has been ridden well in one thing doesn't mean that's its forever bit. You might find that as you go along and the training keeps improving, that that you actually can go softer and softer in your options to get your horse more and more comfortable, more and more able to really take the contact and be relaxed about it. So yeah, that's a really great option, and yeah, time and time again I find that it's been a really good option for a huge range of horses for dressage, but also even trail riding and that sort of thing. It is a very kind option in terms of how much stopping power you have from both reins. So that's why I don't always, it doesn't always suit every horse if they don't have that soft mouth and training, because they have the ability to sort of run through it more or less. If they're not got that soft sort of feel in coming back off pressure. So yeah, so like I said, some horses end up they eventually can graduate to it, but it's not always the best option straight out for a horse that doesn't have the training, the pressure and release training to really settle into it. So another option on the new Shul lines, here's just another, this is a turtle tactio, so that's another similar one to the turtle top, but it actually has a little bit more play in the center, which allows a little bit of tongue pressure. So some horses that aren't quite ready for the turtle top, in terms of that they take advantage a little bit of the amount of tongue relief that it has, you can pop them in often in this, and that will be still a very kind, very ergonomic option, but you've got a bit more breaks. So younger horses often go well in that if they're not quite up to the turtle top yet. I'm going to stick with the Verbindens because, why not? They are very popular for dressage, so that's why we're sticking with these bad boys. And the Verbindens as well, I should say, but like I said again, because they've got such an ergonomic shape often to the bars, to the where the jaw goes, they often suit horses that are sensitive in the jaw. So yeah, so it's a good one to start. This one is the Verbinden. So it's sometimes you see it and people see it and they go, oh, it's that square bit, and that's sort of how people recognise it in their tack collection. They go, oh, yeah, it looks sort of square, so see the ankles are sort of square to that. So this one's one of the most popular dressage bits. That being said, it is quite a because it's thinner sort of material than you just saw in the turtle top. It's sort of a sharp sort of bit, so it can be a bit too much really for some horses. Some horses don't need this sort of thinner material and the angles of it, and some horses actually will be more comfortable going forward into the contact in a turtle top. But for some horses who can tolerate the thinner sort of material, this can be a great option, especially as you go up the levels, because it still has a lot of tongue relief in it. So a lot of horses really respond well. It still forms a nice port over the tongue. And it, I often say to people, when you ride in this, it's like having power steering versus riding in the turtle top. And you notice that, and you notice whether your horse can tolerate that extra or need that extra communication versus in the turtle top. This is like you're putting it on nos, and you can really feel every step. And a horse that finds this too much, they'll start to consider every single step they take, and they're like very careful. It makes them more careful, I find. It's really good at lifting horses who are heavy on the forehand. So whether that's through training or their way of going, that they tend to get heavy on the forehand. And I've noticed this in some horses that are trained, have been trained for certain disciplines. They might have been trained to travel heavy on the forehand and possibly in a bit of an artificial frame through the head and neck where they haven't learned to lift up and back and to really tip back on their hocks. It can also just be horses that are naturally inclined to travelling on the forehand and a bit heavy and lazy. They want you to carry their head and neck for them. This can be a really great option because they can't lean on it, so they have to really, you know, tip back. I remember one of my sponsored riders had a stock horse mare that had been trained to travel heavily on the forehand, and before she got her, and once she put her in this Verbinden, she was like, oh no, I have to work now, and she was dripping in sweat because she all of a sudden had to use her back and her bum to hold herself up and not lean on the weight of the rider. So that's a cool little story. But yeah, Verbinden, great dressage bit. You can get it, most dressage riders are up when they're ready for the Verbinden, they're riding it in a loose ring. The loose ring allows a lot of communication, very fine communication with your horse. If your horse is suitable to be ridden in a Verbinden, but you don't feel your hands are ready to ride in a loose ring, or you don't need that level of communication, then you can get it in a egg butt or a D ring as well. Egg butt. Check that. Get it in D ring definitely. So a few people I know have got it in the D ring. So you got the stability for your hands, but you've still got a little bit more of a finer feel of the egg butt of the Verbinden. There's that one. So quite popular amongst my warm blood friends is the KK Ultra. So the Springer KK Ultra. It's well suited for your warm blood type mouth. And I've noticed a lot of people, they don't feel the need necessarily to graduate too much beyond this. Some horses can go quite kindly in it. Very popular for dressage for our warm blood friends. So just thought I would share that one there. It's a lozenge type snaffle and quite ergonomic, and horses tend to be quite accepting of that material. But just, yeah, if you've got a larger warm blood type and you're thinking of an option for that, the KK Ultra is quite popular. Okay, moving on to the happy mouth. So this is a bomber's bit. This is a ported mouth, so basically meaning that it ports over the tongue, so the tongue can sits underneath that thing, and then they under the port there, which is what we call that opening, and yeah, provides a lot of tongue relief. So we often have horses who are sensitive in the tongue, and they want a bit of port relief. So again, I find a lot of horses who have become cautious of contact, they then can settle into this because it's very steady. You see how it's got no link in the middle? It's got no join, so the horse doesn't have to worry about things fussing around in its mouth on its tongue. It can just let this sit in its mouth and be happy, hence the happy tongue. So yeah, a lot of horses start to enjoy their work again once they're in something like this that's not too much movement in the mouth, and a horse that's quite sensitive to movement can really appreciate something like this, especially if you have it in an egg butt as well. That being said, you don't tend to have as much play in the, sort of to unlock the jaw. So often people will get it in the loose ring so that they can actually play the side of the mouth to get a bit of engagement, so the horse doesn't just lock on it and just sort of ignore. Important to remember with these ones is the loose rings, so you have to be careful to get the right sizings for these. I've found they can be a little bit tricky with sizing in terms of pinching and rubbing, so yeah, you can end up with some issues there. They're quite sharp in terms of like the bottom side of them. It's fairly not as curved as those new shawls I showed you before. So if your horse is jaw sensitive, then this can be too harsh for it. But if it's mostly tongue sensitive and not jaw sensitive, it can be a really great option. Some horses can't tolerate even the amount of play that the new shawl has in its mouth in terms of lozenges in the middle, and they just really want something they can just stick in the mouth and just sit there and shut up and not move, and that's what they like. So again, I'm finding that the ported mouth options might not be a forever option for that horse. Some horses they need it for a certain period to get the confidence back in the bit, and then they can change options. So don't think that just because your horse has been chosen an option at some point in its life that it has to stay in that forever. It might actually have changed in its training or way of going that it can get another option. So this is a variation of that port. This is the Bomber's Blue. So basically it's made of a hard nylon, and over time that warms and molds to the shape of your horse's mouth. So it's not a rubber as such. It's not like a flexible. It's like a hard sort of nylon. So some horses who have issues with metal in their mouth or don't really like the metal, they can often respond really well to this. Some horses find it a bit too thick for them because it's quite thick. See that? But I'm finding that some horses who have had issues with or bad experiences with bits before quite like this. It's quite popular with say thoroughbred types that they want the steadiness but they don't necessarily want the metal. So just in terms of a training, like a dressage training bit, I've had a few horses that have been responding well lately to the miler bit. So the horses that I find lately that are responding well to the miler, they tend to be horses that have a bit more flesh in their tongue and their jaws. They can handle a bit of a finer option in their mouth, and this can become quite a steady option for them. And see, I've got the D ring, like the training ring on that too. So for your younger horse, it can be a good option. Yeah, it's just been one that's popped up lately, and I thought, oh, okay, you know, that's a good training level dressage option for a lot of horses that can handle the fine sort of option that the miler has. And you've got a lot of you've got some side to side movement in it too, so it doesn't necessarily get stuck and just sit there. It can be a great option for your lower level training horses if they can tolerate it. And then just the one more option that I would often look at for a horse that maybe is smaller in the mouth and again is a bit of a Goldilocks, doesn't like too much movement, doesn't like it to be too rigid, you know, wants something just right, and is going well as possible in a single joint snaffle. Sometimes you can get these Bombers lock up bits. So you can get them in like this or a boucher, so similar to a single joint, but it can't physically lock down and it doesn't physically squeeze the tongue and the jaw of the mouth. Some horses, especially they've got a small mouth, like a fine mouthed horse, will often like this because it again can just it's not too much going on in their mouth. Some horses get offended by too much stuff in their mouth, and they actually get quite offended by a lozenge, but they also don't want a straight bar in their mouth. They want a little something to play with, but they don't want too much sitting on their tongue. So this is the boucher version of the lock-up. So yeah, it's got a little joint in the middle, but it doesn't physically lock down. So I hope there have been some good options for you to think about for dressage. One of the things that I think is important to remember for dressage, and as you go up the levels, is that the higher you get up the levels, the more often the more tongue relief your horse may need to help the hind leg come through underneath them, because the hind leg is connected to the tongue. So you'll find that, like I said, a bit that suited your horse through the lower levels, you might get to a certain level and be like, oh, this doesn't work anymore, or it's not, we're struggling with certain movements, and it might be time to have a look at the bit and say, oh yeah, we haven't been riding that same bit for a while, maybe it's time to look at a bit of an upgrade. So yeah, obviously you can contact me for bit fittings if you're in Gippsland. We also have the Bit Bank have accredited bit fitters all around Victoria and even around Australia. So if you're looking at this from somewhere else and want a bit of help and advice on what's the type of bit your horse might like for dressage or training, then yeah, give one of us, get in touch. So yeah, that's a really good option. But like I said, there's a few that come up time and time again as really good training options for your horse and at all levels of dressage. So yeah, don't get too overwhelmed by it all, and yeah, hope this helps. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Sorry again for the audio issues earlier. I have deleted that video because it makes no sense to keep it because you couldn't hear me. Yeah, and hope to see you all soon. Hope this helps. Just send me any questions you have, and yeah, I'll keep sharing information because I think it's important. Thanks, guys. Bye.